scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize. Which side are you on?
Get it ready for
Which
podcasting.
side are you
Yes,
on?
we're rolling.
Here we are.
Throats are cleared.
Throats are cleared.
My name's Taylor. This is Remarks, of course, which is a conversational-styled podcast. With me, as always, is the lovely hairstylist, revolutionary.
Oh my goodness.
Firebomber of McDonald's.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Phoebe.
Hi, I'm Phoebe. I feel like I low-key misled you guys last week because I said that we had a new intro. What I meant was that was the new intro for the Art of the Revolution.
Episodes.
Thank you. Yes, solely. We still have our regular, which side are you on? So don't worry, it's not going anywhere. We just wanted a fun intro for our special, mini-series.
True. Yeah, and I feel like when we do more miniseries in the future, it would be fun to do more intros.
Totally. Yeah.
Because change it up.
Exactly.
New vibes.
Get your creative lo-fi juices flowing.
True. Dropping. I need a lo-fi name.
You do.
Yeah. Maybe that could be the question for this week.
It is. Yeah.
Comment on what you think my lo-fi name should be when I drop lo-fi.
Yes. Okay. I love that.
But yeah. How was the research this week? How was the themes?
Oh my god. I'm gonna give a pre-warning that mine will probably be long because I got very lost in the sauce with this one. I literally was up late as fuck last night. I felt like a crazy person a little bit.
I feel like with that what's the TikTok song that's trending, the single mom that works two
Yes.
jobs. That was you
Loves
last
her
night.
kids. Yeah, that literally
studying
was
for the
me.
pod. Well, hell yeah. I mean, it makes sense because there's been whole documentaries,
Yes.
multiple
Yes.
documentaries on different small little parts of what you're talking about.
And it's motherfucking wild. There's so much shit. Oh my god. Just when I thought I was okay, I'm coming to a conclusion. No.
Yeah.
Turn a corner. Bam. Another
thing.
fucking something's going crazy. So, yeah.
For sure.
So
you're starting off. So.
Yeah. So today we're talking about, big government fuck-ups, basically.
Yeah.
Inspired by... Which wasn't necessarily a government fuck-up, but when Taylor was talking about the BP oil spill, I was like, oh, how fun would it be to just talk about, shit that the government completely bungled.
But just... Yeah, it was originally going to be corporation or government ones, but we both just chose, government fuck-ups.
Yeah, because we both were I feel like immediately we were both oh yeah, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to talk about the Chernobyl disaster. I'm juiced. Okay. So, April 25th, 1986, Chernobyl, Ukraine, the Soviet Union / USSR. It's kind of different things, but kind of the same thing.
Pretty much the same.
Basically. So, workers at the V.I. Lenin Nuclear Power Station's number 4 RBMK reactor were settling down from the daily upkeep of the plant. The workers at the plant had some unoccupied time, and they decided to use this time to run some safety tests on the number 4 reactor. The RBMK reactor is a graphite-moderated nuclear power reactor. This is a different design than other nuclear reactors, apparently. And this was specifically designed by the Soviet Union, so, nobody else had this type. So the tests that they were running were supposed to be part of the routine maintenance of the reactor. But this particular test that they wanted to run that night had only been conducted 3 times prior to April 25th. 1986. So what they were going to do was run a simulation to see if the reactor would continue to be cooled by water circulation, which is something that was part of the Soviet RBMK reactor design. There's a drum made of graphite in the middle surrounded by this water that's supposed to keep it cooled in the event of a power outage.
Word.
So there were some complications that were somewhat unrelated to the simulation that happened, that delayed the completion of the test by about 10 hours. In this 10-hour time frame, this is where shit starts to go awry. So as the power on the reactor was dropped to simulate the power outage, the reactor's power dropped almost to zero. And this is way lower than the allotted power level for running this simulation.
So it's supposed to be higher than zero?
Yes. Yeah. It's like they're dropping it a little bit just to like make sure shit's going to be okay. But they're not completely cutting it off because that's like not good. I don't know. I'm not a nuclear power plant worker.
No, not a big nuclear power plant guy.
So they tried to restabilize the reactor, but they only got it to the kitties here, by the way. They only got it back to 7% power, and they were able to reach this level of restabilization by removing most of the control rods from the reactor's core. This is bad shit. This is not a good thing to do.
Yeah.
So, the reactor was now resting at this unsafe power level. It's missing several of its control rods, which were usually in place to balance the power of the reactor's core. And then the night shift takes over at midnight.
Yeah.
April 26th. They had been told that the previous shift had not finished the power outage test and that they were supposed to complete this simulation. What they were not informed of was the complications that had taken place. So when the night shift started the power outage test, the reactor was already at this low unstable power level, as well as having the control rods removed. And they were basically just staring catastrophe in the eye if the reactor was to drop power again. It's been rumored that the workers from the earlier shift were pushed by their supervisor to leave out this information when doing the shift turnover, in order to get out of there for the day, basically. So, the new shift starts to run the power outage test. Things are running fairly smoothly until they complete the test, right near the end of them completing the test. So at 1:23 a.m. on April 26th, 1986, the VI Lenin number 4 RBMK reactor shuts down. Due to the removal of several core control rods, a nuclear chain reaction occurred. So, a huge burst of energy is released from the core, which triggers 2 explosions. These explosions burst the core of the reactor and destroyed the building surrounding the reactor. The first explosion is a steam explosion from the water that everyone had been relying on to cool this reactor and stop this from happening. The second was a nuclear explosion. A huge fireball shoots up into the night sky, and that blows off the steel and concrete lid of the number 4 reactor. What happens next is arguably the most devastating consequence of the Chernobyl disaster. So, the core of the reactor, which has now been exposed to the open air, is in flames. Radioactive material starts to billow out into the atmosphere in this huge, dark, looming cloud. This toxic cloud continued to cough out from the reactor's core for the next 9 days straight.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And it's just so wild because, like, I mean, I don't know. I guess even less so then, but like radioactive radiation is like pretty fucking bad for everything.
Like real not good.
Can't think of many things that it helps. Like I guess blowing
cancer
things
treatment.
up. Yeah, cancer treatment,
but like not just out in the air.
But also it gives people cancer too.
True.
In some scenarios.
Which I don't really understand how that works.
I also don't really get. I'm no doctor.
I'm no oncologist.
I mean, I have a PhD.
Yes.
But I'm not like an MD.
Right. Don't confuse those two.
Yes.
Don't come asking us about no cancer radiation. I don't know what
Although when I do start my giant like hippie cult,
yes,
we are going to be selling alternative medicine.
So, for sure.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. Healing through vape.
Healing.
It's healing through vaping, just like vitamins. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
Those like vitamin vapes?
I have.
Oh my fucking god,
healing through strawberry pineapple vape juice.
Except you inject it in your veins.
Yeah, it's Oh my god, vitamin heroin.
Oh my god.
Jeez.
Oh, I think that is a thing, though, actually. You can get, like,
you can
intravenous.
do syringes. I mean, like, they do that in hospitals,
That's
right?
true.
So I guess it's, like, probably would make sense.
But we would do it unsafe.
We would be for sure unsafe. Funny story, this is a little bit of a tangent. I had a friend who, I believe on her 21st birthday, she got so drunk. She was very, very sick, obviously. Like, she drank a lot. And it was her 21st, like, it's to be expected, you know? Good for her. But the next day, she was so sick that she called, like a home care nurse to come and give her an IV drip.
Oh my god.
I mean, because I guess she said, like, she would just throw up every time she tried to, like, drink water.
Oh, that's
like,
awful.
It was awful.
That's awful.
So,
yeah, there's, like, bougie, like, LA services that do that.
Yeah, and, like, I mean, she was in Arizona, but...
Yeah. Fuck, that's wild.
Anyway.
Anyway, so, radioactive materials flying all over the place for 9 days straight. Wind carries this radioactive material out to, like, the neighboring parts of Western Europe, and particularly it fucks over Belarus. So, firefighters are called to the scene at about 1:45 a.m. when flaming debris from the explosion lands on the roof of reactor number 3 that caused about 5 fires, which I guess on the roofs of these buildings there was some, like, very flammable material, which is like, you guys.
Y'all, come on.
Yeah, which I think was just, like, negligence, but still, like, maybe think about that a little bit more. So the workers inside of this operation building began to become very concerned, and Yuri Bagdasarov, the chief on shift, was begging to shut down reactor number 3. But the chief engineer, Nikolai Fomin, completely refused, and he just passed out respirators and potassium iodine tablets to the staff and said, keep working.
What would shutting down the 3rd reactor do? Like, what was the point of that, I should say?
Basically, yeah, so it would basically, first of all, get everybody out of that building when there's literally a huge explosion, and now radioactive materials, even them inside that building are not safe.
Oh, so do they mean, like, shut down, like, the operations of it? Like, they weren't going to shut down the nuclear plant, were they?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I think they wanted to try and shut down the reactor.
Yeah. And again, I know we're not experts on radioactive or nuclear reactors, but I guess I was just thinking, I was like, but didn't this just happen because one, like, went too low?
Yeah.
But again, I don't.
Yeah, so
we're not there. Good there.
I'm not 100% sure on
Whatever
that.
Whatever the case, bad things were ensuing.
Yes, and, like, these people should have been evacuated, like, immediately, because if you're around radioactive, like, materials at all that aren't, like, cased in the right way, so this is literally, it's just, like, fucking flying out into the air, you are fucked, like, which I'll get into in a little bit. I completely just lost my train of thought, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. So the chief engineer passes out respirators and potassium iodine tablets, which potassium iodine tablets are taken to protect the thyroid from radiation poisoning. It uptakes, like, the production of some fucking thing in your thyroid. I don't know for sure. So none of the firefighters who had responded to this call also, sorry, the air in Salt Lake is fucked up right now, so
bad.
I'm gonna...
The worst air in the entire world.
We're number 1. So we're probably gonna be clearing our throats a lot on this episode. Sorry about that. And the vocal fry is gonna be really intense.
Really good. I don't know, I feel like it gives it, like, a sultry, like...
Yeah.
The government is awful. Like a little sultry anti-government NPR vibe.
Some, like, late night communist stuff. So, none of the firefighters who responded to this call had been informed that it was the reactor that had exploded which caused the fire. They did not know that the smoke that they were breathing was radioactive, and they had no idea that literally everything around them was now radioactive. One of the many firefighters who died of radiation poisoning was Volodymyr Provik, who died in the hospital about 10 days later from radiation poisoning. Even the helicopter pilots who were flying above the scene, they were dumping sand, clay, lead, what have you, onto the reactor, trying to extinguish this fire. Even they were at risk for radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
Which
insane.
I'll definitely get into in a little bit, like the zone of like how far away you had to be in order to not get fucked over by radiation. Firefighters on the scene reported from their deathbeds that they had tasted a metallic taste in their mouths and felt a pins and needles sensation on their exposed skin. The USSR knowingly fucked over countless plant workers, numerous first responders, and a huge portion of Western Europe due to their attempt to cover up this disaster. The reported number of deaths from the USSR following this incident was a mere 31. This number is shockingly wrong. Like, unbelievably...
Criminally wrong.
Literally criminally wrong. Like, straight to jail. I don't believe in jail, but, like, still. The death toll from this event is, like, could even still be, like, rising to this day.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Which I'll get into a little bit later. Which I think... Yes. Let's have a little ad break before I get into how this affected the lives of the people living near Chernobyl.
You know what won't blow up a nuclear reactor
And then lie about it.
and then lie about how many deaths were caused by it? Products and services.
Yeehaw.
Capitalism. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, there's never been any natural disasters caused by capitalism. Am I right there?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no.
I mean, perfect system.
Yes.
No notes,
yeah,
right?
not a single... I would even go to say that not a single thing has actually ever gone wrong, ever, under capitalism.
Yeah, like, because, I mean, that's what I've been told my entire life, is that, like, we're perfect.
Yes, yeah, that's what I've been told, and what has been forced down my throat since day one of my birth, so that of course that's the truth.
I have no reason to doubt it. So.
Yes, I've been raised to believe that the American government would never lie to me.
About a single thing.
Ever. Not once.
Anyway.
Ads.
All right. We're back.
We both need new laptops.
True. Ours are both old. Any sugar daddies in the audience if you want
In the audience.
grant us some new laptops?
Yeah.
And we will continue to provide our podcast.
Yes. I mean, we are anti-establishment. We're anti-capitalist, of course, so we're not asking for money. We're just saying if there's somebody out there that listens to this that's like, wow, I have an unreasonable amount of money, I should buy these kids some new laptops.
Exactly. And they're like, wow,
we wouldn't
these
argue.
two extremely sexy voices that I listen to on the weekly deserve some new laptops.
Which we do.
True.
All right. Let's get back into it. So, early in the morning on April 26th, 1986, in Pripyat, a city 1 mile away from Chernobyl, which had been built in the 1970s to house plant workers who had to work these like odd shift hours, because they had to keep eyes on the plant at all times. Clearly, I mean, look what happened. So, like I was saying earlier, like they would start shifts at like midnight. So this was just the easiest thing in order to get to the plant quickly. So these residents in Pripyat were shocked to see snow falling from the sky in April. The families came out from their houses, shocked by the idea of snow in April, and then these onlookers soon began to taste metal in their mouths, and people started violently coughing and vomiting, and started having raging headaches. Because the snow falling from the sky was not snow at all, it was radioactive ash from the Chernobyl explosion.
Jesus.
Which, in the HBO series, you should definitely fucking watch, called Chernobyl. There's like a scene where all the families are going outside and kids are like sticking their tongues out to catch the snowflakes, which is radioactive ash.
Oh no.
Which I don't know if that happened in real life, but it's great.
I mean,
it's a great scene.
Wouldn't be necessarily surprised,
Yeah.
but it definitely illustrates like the vibe, I guess.
Yes, and this part is true, like the ash falling from the sky. So it wasn't until April 27th, which was a full day and a half after the explosion of the number 4 reactor, that the people of Pripyat were evacuated.
A day and a half
after. A day and a half after.
Yeah, like, that's some shit, because,
yes.
like, radiation poisoning, if it's, like, high levels, like, that shit will kill you in, like, hours.
Yes.
Like,
yes, and it did. So when Vasyl Dudinets, the Minister of Internal Affairs for Ukraine, called to report to the chairwoman of the Ukraine Parliament, he said that there had been a fire at the Chernobyl plant, but that it had been extinguished and that everything was fine. Oh, that's funny, Vasyl, because the fire was not extinguished until May 10th.
And things were indeed not fine.
Yeah. Narrator comes over and says, actually... yeah, and that was that, like, 9 days of shit spewing out from the reactor, and this fire was still going until May 10th. So, at 11 a.m. on April 27th, the residents of Pripyat started to be bussed out to Kiev, which is about, like, 2.5 hours away from Pripyat. By 3 p.m., 53,000 Pripyat residents had been evacuated to Kiev. Mm-hmm. They were told that they would be evacuated for about 3 days. The following day, as radiation levels were measured, plans were made to evacuate residents even further from the, like, they had created this, like, 10-kilometer, which is, like, 6.5 miles, zone around Chernobyl that they were like, okay, within this 10 kilometers, it's bad. Well, then they were like, maybe not, actually. Maybe it's more.
Maybe it's more than that, yeah.
Yeah, which, 10 days after that, the zone had grown to about 30 miles wide.
Jeez.
Which that was not accurate yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. After 2000, after the year 2000, the number of permanently evacuated residents from contaminated areas has reached about 350,000.
Jesus.
Yeah. To this day, the homes in Pripyat remain completely untouched, and it's still filled with the possessions of the evacuated residents, because they were basically told, like, get some shit right now, you have 3 days, like, don't worry, whatever. And so, like, adventure-seeking tourists, you can get, like, a special passport, and you can get, like, this cool suit, and you can go through and walk the ghost towns of Chernobyl.
And it's so like cool.
It's so cool. I really want to do it. I know that it's dangerous, but I really fucking want to do it.
Well, and it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's been so untouched, like, it's just like a weird time capsule
exactly.
in a way, you know?
Yeah.
It's like Pompeii.
I was literally just gonna say exactly that. Yeah, it's like you literally, I mean, people got up and left in the middle of their day. There's just shit out, like,
just around.
Yeah, leaving their lives behind, never to return. Because they literally can't.
Wild.
Yeah. So in the midst of these evacuations, the Soviet Union was still refusing to acknowledge this disaster, and it wasn't until 2 days after the evacuations that Sweden had to literally threaten the Soviet Union to admit that there had been an accident at the Chernobyl plant.
Sweden was like...
finger guns.
Yeah, finger guns, like, fucking, what happened? God.
Which even then, they tried to downplay it.
Of course they did. I
yeah.
mean, it was this, like, dumb dick-comparing race between the United States and the Soviet Union at the time, and they can't be embarrassed because they had an accident, you know?
Yeah, an accident. Which, like, this ties to Cold War shit.
Absolutely.
So April 28th, at the Forsmark nuclear power plant in Sweden, the alarming radiation levels were detected. And once the plant had concluded that the radiation was not coming from them, the Soviet Union was contacted. The Soviet Union, like I said, first denied that anything had happened at all. And then Sweden threatened that they were going to file a report with the International Atomic Energy Agency. And then the Soviet Union was all like, oops, sorry.
Well, and now that you say that,
actually,
there was kind of a situation.
And now that I'm remembering, I forgot.
I had just forgotten about the giant explosion that
Sorry,
took
Sweden.
place.
Which even then, after that, they were like, oh yeah, okay, there was an explosion. The Soviet Union completely downplayed the situation, and they said that there had only been a minor accident and that things were being taken care of. But then, as evacuations continued and more people were being evacuated, it like, countries around the Soviet Union were like, the fuck, you guys. And so the Soviet Union had to own up to their shit.
Yeah.
Kinda. Even then, still.
Moderately,
Still,
yeah.
they didn't. This, literally, I was like, this blew my mind. So, the Soviet Union's first official announcement of this disaster at Chernobyl was a 20-second block at 9 p.m. At 9 p.m. during a news segment called Vremya. And it said this: "There has been an accident at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. One of the nuclear reactors was damaged. The effects of the accident are being remedied. Assistance has been provided for any affected people. An investigative commission has been set up." Cool. 20 seconds at 9 p.m. Immediately following this announcement, the Telegraph Agency of the Soviet Union, which was a Soviet news radio station, broadcasted a program about American nuclear accidents, which, which included the 3 Mile Island accident. I don't really know about that one, but for all you nuclear heads out there, which they were literally being like, oh yeah, okay, we fucked up, but look, America's done this too, so, like, we're not that bad.
Yeah, like, it could be worse.
Yeah, like, which this was something that they would do fairly frequently.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just one of those things. It's like, I don't like America. But
No.
I'm also not a huge Soviet Union fan in a lot of ways. Like,
and it's also just like, okay, so you made this mistake, and then immediately you're like, okay, but look at all this other stuff too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's true. And it's like, as if that, like, mistakes don't happen. Like, if you had just, like, treated it like it wasn't, like, the actual severity, I feel like it would be remembered less harshly in history, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if they had addressed this immediately, evacuated, like, not only could they have saved, like, I don't even know, thousands and thousands of lives, but, like, also, could have maybe avoided the collapse of the Soviet Union. Maybe, at least avoided part of the collapse of the Soviet Union. And this is another thing that I thought was, like, really funny, but in, like, a fucked up way, was that one of the ways that the civilians in the Soviet Union were able to suss out the severity of this situation was that after this, like, super sad and concerning announcement of, like, hey, you all might die from radiation poisoning, but, like, it's chill, the radio station started playing classical music, which I guess is something that the Soviet Union would do often to prepare the people for the announcement of a tragedy.
Oh, weird.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
It's, like, calming, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're like, we're going to downplay this. Here's some classical music,
Here's some
though.
Bach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might have thyroid cancer. Mozart. And, this is another thing that blew my mind. Moscow released a statement saying that the celebrations in Kiev for International Workers' Day on May 1st should not be postponed. Just go ahead and have your fucking parade, you guys. Scientists were falsely reporting that the radiation levels in Kiev had returned back to normal. And so they decided that the Workers' Day celebrations would be shortened from 4 hours to just 2 hours. Sure, yeah, you totes won't die from radiation poisoning if you're only celebrating for 2 hours, instead of 4.
You'll probably live like an extra week in the hospital.
In the hospital.
Dying slowly.
Your skin burning off and your lungs.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Which, tangent a little bit, this all just gives me the fucking chills so much because it reminds me of how coronavirus was handled by the U.S. Like, it parallels it, like, pretty similarly. Like, the U.S. government literally saw coronavirus coming from, like, a fucking mile away. They left us in the dark until it was completely ravaging the country. And even then they completely downplayed it. Denied it and downplayed it. And they told us that quarantine would only last until Easter.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of how they told the Pripyat residents that they would only be evacuated for, like, 3 days. I'm like, you can't, when there's been a nuclear explosion with radiation, you can't go back there.
Quit making promises you don't know that you can keep.
Yes.
Like, oh my God.
And then it's like they also allowed Donald Trump to spout, like, this unbelievably false information about COVID and the ways to treat COVID and masks and this and that on TV and Twitter every single day, leading to these massive outbreaks, gave us bullshit distance and group size requirements in order to keep businesses open. They misled us at the beginning with the masks. They bungled the labeling of essential businesses, They bungled the money distribution. They bungled the reopening of non-essential businesses. They bungled the vaccine rollout, bungled the vaccine information, bungled the vaccinated people don't have to wear masks thing. And now, again, they're bungling this entire situation, again, with the fucking variants.
Yeah, the Delta
Like, we're
variant.
literally seeing it again in real time. And I'm like, this happened a year ago. How are we doing this again? Oh, my God. Anyway, okay. I'm almost done. Sort of. So,
Okay, you're good.
So as I said before, the official death toll from this event released by the Soviet Union was an entire 31 people. Yeah, this number included 2 people that were killed in the explosions, like immediately, basically. The plant workers and the first responders who were exposed to fatal doses of radiation, who had died like a few weeks and months down the line.
Yeah.
After a few months, they basically stopped counting. The official number stated by the UN is 54, which is they measured a few months like after the Soviet Union stopped, from like people dying in the hospital, and they also counted there was like a crash of one of the helicopters that was trying to put the fucking fire out, and so they like, which that should have been counted.
I mean, yeah, you would think. Well, and then it's like, and that's just again a couple months after the.
Yeah.
So that's not even. Accounting for the long-term fuckery that took place.
Well, and it's still, like, there's still shit going on to this day. And again, like, just to remind everybody, this happened in 1986. Like, this was not a long time ago. Which literally, like, when I was watching the HBO documentary, or not documentary, HBO series on this, I think I had, like, I had forgotten at the beginning where it said, like, what year it was. And I later, like, went on to Google it, and I was like, 1986? Like, I thought this had been, like, in the 60s or something, which, like, still would have been terrible, but I'm like, this was not that fucking long ago. Like, people from this are still alive.
Yeah, and, like, that was 10 years before we were born.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Insane.
Like, that's nuts. So, the actual toll that Chernobyl took is basically impossible to calculate. The cancers and disabilities caused by radiation are still developing to this day. And many people that died from cancer caused by radiation years after 1986 weren't counted in the official death toll measure. The Chernobyl Forum, which is a group made up of the International Atomic Energy Agency, UN organizations, and the governments of Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine, estimated that somewhere near 4,000 to 9,000 people will eventually die from cancers caused by Chernobyl. The Union of Concerned Scientists, which I feel like is a really cute name, and it reminds me of, like, the Shy Guy fingers.
Yeah, the concern.
Like,
we're
concerned. They came up with a number around 27,000 people that will eventually die from cancers linked to Chernobyl. Yeah. Greenpeace, in a 2006 report, racked up the number, saying that more than 200,000 people had already died of Chernobyl cancers.
Jeez.
Yeah. And beyond this, like, the Chernobyl disaster affected people more than just this death toll as well. Like, the lasting health and mental impacts, as well as environmental impacts caused by the radiation and by the Soviet Union's attempted cover-up, still affect people to this day. So, in a peer-reviewed paper in the International Journal of Cancer from 2006, there was a study done, and they said that the predicted death toll from the cancers was about 4,000. And then they said that Chernobyl might have caused about 1,000 cases of thyroid cancer and 4,000 cases of other cancers in Europe. And they predict that by 2065, about 16,000 cases of thyroid cancer and 25,000 cases of other cancers are to be expected from radiation from this accident.
Damn.
Yeah.
Fucked up.
Fucked up indeed. So, about 350,000 people were displaced due to Chernobyl, and they've never been able to return to their hometowns due to risk of radiation exposure. Many of the survivors of Chernobyl and their families are still very afraid and unsure about the long-term effects of radiation because they don't trust the government, first of all. Second of all, it's like they don't really know what the long-term effects of this is going to be. So because of the Soviet Union's attempt to cover up this accident and their repeated lying about the severity of the events and the lies about the death tolls, as well as they had lied about the number of patients dying from radiation sickness, they miscalculated, or well, not miscalculated, they pretended they miscalculated, which again reminds me of the coronavirus. People, of course, began to totally mistrust the Soviet Union.
Classic.
Yeah, which this mistrust bled into other institutions, including medical institutions. And another really interesting consequence of this cover-up and mistrust, which I just thought this was so fascinating, was a rise of abortions after this.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. Many pregnant women were worried about the effects of radiation on their unborn babies. Yeah. And so, because of this, there was a rise of terminations of pregnancy that had been completely normal up till then, and still were normal and probably would have been, like, a safe and fine birth.
Yeah. But then that's, like, another thing, too, is, like, the Soviet, like, not only did they lie about all of this shit, but then they didn't, like, follow through and give people, like, people obviously didn't trust them, at that point anyway, but, like, they didn't give people, like, the answers that they needed to, like, make decisions afterwards either,
Exactly. Like, they did not say, this is what we know about radiation poisoning, this is what we can do, etc., etc. Again, reminds me of the fucking...
Yeah, it's the same with the coronavirus.
It's the same goddamn thing. Which now they're like, oh, long COVID might be a thing. Good luck, everyone. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, right, the pregnancies. An estimated excess of about 150,000 abortions due to fear of radiation poisoning was counted in a 1987 article published by Linda E. Ketchum. Which this was not just in Russia. This was which actually, the abortions from Ukraine and Russia, those numbers were never released. But this was from, Greece and Germany and Italy, I want to say. I can't remember. But, neighboring countries because this shit, it spread far. Okay. Environmental impact. So, the Chernobyl power plant is right next to the Pripyat River, and this river flows into the Dnieper? I don't know. That one was... I thought I was doing real good with the Russian pronunciations. That one, I don't know. But I think it's the Dnieper Reservoir, which is responsible for a portion of Europe's water systems. Mm-hmm. And this is the main source of water for Kiev. So it was reported by the Soviet Union, classic fucking Soviet Union, that radiation levels in the drinking water were safe for consumption. But, But soon after this, Kiev's water system was switched to a new river, and the Pripyat River was closed off. A forest.
God, it's so fucking frustrating.
Yeah, drink your water that's literally poisoned with radiation. It's unreal. A forest right by Chernobyl was nicknamed the Red Forest because after this accident, all of the trees changed color to permanently be this reddish-brown color.
That's weird.
Wild.
Huh.
So fucking weird. Which it was like a pine tree forest. Mm. Many of the animals in this forest died, and a lot of the animals that survived stopped reproducing. Some of the horses that had been left in Pripyat died to thyroid cancers. And on farms in Narodichi, I think, of Ukraine, it's claimed that nearly 350 animals were born with deformities like missing or extra limbs, missing eyes, missing heads, missing ribs, deformed skulls, etc. The agricultural industry in Belarus was basically completely fucked over because of the radiation that had passed throughout Europe and into farms in surrounding countries. Basically the farming industry in Belarus was ruined. And when samples were taken from wild boar that's hunted and eaten in Germany, about 1,000 had radiation levels over the safe consumption amount. And high levels of radiation were detected in Italian farm animals as well. And then I read an article, what?
No, I was just... You're good, no.
I'm getting into it.
I know. I was just thinking how everything was so fucked up after this, and then the Soviet Union was like, you guys got this?
Yeah.
Cool. Later. Like,
Sweden, you take over on this? Okay.
Sweden
Cool.
was like, say psych right now. Like, don't, what the fuck?
Yeah, like they literally were just like, it's cool.
You're fine.
Everything's cool.
Yeah, no, like, your board's got a little radiation in them.
Whose radiation ever hurt?
Yeah, what's it gonna do? Melt your skin off? Probably, yeah, but like,
Give you uncurable cancers? I mean, this isn't our first rodeo.
come on. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all had an uncurable cancer at some point in our lives.
It's like, it goes back to the whole Cold War thing and their, like, pissing contest with America. They did not want to own up to this shit because they didn't want it to be like, oh, they fucked up and they're, like, this unstable, shitty government. Which, by not owning up to your shit, it makes you look even worse.
Exactly. Because that shit always, like, I guess it doesn't always, but a lot of the time it comes out and, you know, they just had to have a bigger penis than America. That's the biggest...
Yep, and they didn't want to, like, appear like they were making any mistakes. I'm close.
Anyway.
I'm close to concluding here.
You're good.
I thought this was really interesting, and it just kind of gave a lens on how intense radiation really is and how long it can affect, and like it's like this like domino effect of all the different things that it affects. So I was reading an article about these women at a wool factory that was like miles away from Pripyat who inexplicably started getting sick. They were having headaches, vomiting, bloody noses, what have you. It was found out later that they were using wool from sheep that had died near Chernobyl.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah! Fucking crazy. So it's been said that the Chernobyl disaster is one of the largest contributors to the collapse of the Soviet Union. Which it definitely was a big, like, benefactor to making the Soviet Union collapse. So, according to Mikhail Gorbachev, the Soviet Union spent 18 billion rubles, which was 2.5 billion at the time, and now is about 5.5 billion in today's dollars. Spent on, like, containing, decontamination, etc., which that basically bankrupts the Soviet Union. The total cost for Belarus over 30 years has been about 235 billion, which is about 302 billion in today's money. In April 2006, Gorbachev wrote, quote, "The nuclear meltdown at Chernobyl 20 years ago this month, even more than my launch of perestroika, was perhaps the real cause of the collapse of the Soviet Union," which perestroika was Gorbachev's attempt to reform the Communist Party.
Yes, I've heard of that.
Which was also like a big fuckery.
Gorbachev.
So many Ukrainians believe that the Chernobyl disaster was an attempt by the Russians to destroy Ukraine, which they compare it to something called the Holodomor, which I did not know about this, but I screamed. So this was a famine in Soviet Ukraine from 1932 to 1933 that killed millions of Ukrainians.
Yeah.
And this was basically like caused by the Soviet Union. They refused to give any aid to Ukraine. They confiscated household food items from the population of Ukraine. Yeah, and this basically, like, led to the death of billions of Ukrainians.
Yeah, I feel like in throughout history there's been like specific places that are like the worst places to be, and you know, I'd say that like being a black person during slavery in the United States was like one of the shittiest places you could be.
Right.
Maybe Ireland during the whole like British occupation and shit.
Right.
And then like Ukraine's pretty high up there because they've just been fucked over so much.
Like over and over.
Over and over. It's insane. And like usually by Russia or like the Soviet. Like
yes.
Yeah, like would not like being like a peasant or a serf in like Ukraine was like again up there is like some of the most like miserable conditions to ever like live in.
Yeah. It's not good. So since 2006, Holodomor has been recognized by Ukraine and 15 other countries as a genocide of the Ukrainian people carried out by the Soviet government.
Damn, good for them.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
fuck it.
And then it's just like, turn around and, hey, by the way, you all have radiation poisoning that the Soviet government lied about.
When was that famine?
That was 1932 to 1933.
Okay, so I mean, still like, again, it's just the, classic, like, fake communist,
Right.
like, kind of mindset,
Yep.
red imperialism, if you will.
Yes,
like,
exactly. That it's like, oh, we need the food, so we're gonna literally take the food out of your fucking house.
Exactly, like, and it's like, wait, what are we supposed to be doing here again? Like, this is communism.
Yes,
like
that's not communism, that's just fascism.
It's just,
That's
it's
just
fucking
a genocide.
like an autocrat being a dictator, like, fuck.
Oy. So to this day, the areas surrounding Chernobyl are still radioactive. They are still closed off, and it's called the Zone of Alienation.
Damn, that's
which
kinda
sounds
sick.
fucking sick.
Band name for sure.
Yeah. And this is where people will go to do like adventure tourism.
Yeah.
And they'll like, so now so it's completely abandoned. It's been abandoned for years. And so it's completely overrun with like forest and wildlife. So it's just like, it has that sweet, like post-apocalyptic type vibe.
Yeah, type B.
Where like you go in and there's still like people's houses and shit, but there's just like vines and shit going through it. It's really cool.
Fallout type B.
Yeah, exactly. Nuclear cleanup is scheduled for completion in 2065.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And scientists estimate that the zone of alienation will not be habitable for over 20,000 years.
Wow, that's good. I'm glad that we did that.
Yeah.
Glad no one can live there for 20,000 years.
Yeah. So that is the story of the Chernobyl disaster and the Soviet Union lying all the time, lying.
Yeah.
And killing so many people and infecting so many people with cancer from radiation poisoning. And and to this day, people are still dying from cancers caused by Chernobyl.
I mean, it's a genocide, really.
Yes.
Like when you think about it.
Yes.
Like they committed basically a genocide on the surrounding area.
They did. By of course, what happened with the reactor number 4, that was an accident. But everything following that, the entire way that this has been handled, that's genocide.
Exactly.
You are knowingly killing people.
You're not at fault for an accident that's happening. I guess you could say you could still try to not have accidents happen, but
at a nuclear power plant.
But it is the lying and the that really fucked everyone over. So it's that's
100%.
More so what the issue is.
Yeah. My last little piece here. So definitely check out the HBO miniseries called Chernobyl. It's really great. There are some things that are not completely accurate in there, but it just, oh my god, it's so fucking well done. It's amazing.
Dramatize things.
Yeah, it's fun. And then there's also a horror movie called Chernobyl. I think it's called The Chernobyl Diaries, I want to say.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen that, actually.
It's okay. It's a fun one. It's a fun watch.
It's a fun one, for sure.
But it's these people, the adventure tourists, go to the Chernobyl site, and there's, crazy radioactive animals and shit. So give that a check out. And then there's, like Taylor said, there's a million documentaries that you can watch on this. This is just, researching this blew my fucking mind, and I just think it's one of, the most crazy, devastating stories ever.
True. It's very sad. I mean, when you really step back and think about, the cost of it all, And again, 20,000 years.
Yeah.
Before anyone can live there again.
Exactly.
Obviously, I don't even know if we'll be around that long, but...
Sure.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And then, what did the UN say? 200,000 people dying from cancers caused by... Chernobyl.
Insane.
Yeah.
But, I guess we should take another ad break, and then we'll get
let's
back
do
into
it. Everybody calm down from Chernobyl.
Hello, we are back. it's my turn to go.
Yeah, Taylor. Blow us away.
I will blow this away. We were talking about a little bit before, or a little bit off the break, when we were on a break, I should say, that, we're not by any means experts in anything.
Yeah.
Maybe a few subjects I could say I have expert level knowledge, but so, these are always overviews.
Mm-hmm.
Please go look up more information on your own if you want more info. And, again, we're people, we probably make mistakes here and there, and
for sure.
If you're gonna be nice and you want to help us out, please feel free to correct us.
That's
Just
fine.
Don't be an asshole about it.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, if you want in-depth looks at things, do your own research,
Yeah, for
there's
sure.
a lot of shit
and
out
again,
there.
There's a lot of amazing resources.
Yes. There's many great Chernobyl documentaries if you are like me and you're like, this is the craziest shit I've ever heard of.
This is the craziest one.
Crazy shit. And let's be real, you're here to listen to us rant about why the government is bad.
Probably. That's I would assume. That's what I would hope. That's what we usually do. So that's a good portion of what we do. So
it's like a solid 45 minutes of the podcast timing.
But yeah, so I'm going to be speaking about our friend of the pod, Ronald Reagan, our boy. Also, pretty sure he's never done anything bad.
No. Ronald Reagan, no.
No, never.
He's innocent in every single thing.
Every single way.
He's actually, one of the most, peaceful, noble people that has ever existed.
I've heard, and again, this is just what I've heard, that he is actually Jesus. Am I correct there?
Yes, that's actually proven in the Bible.
It says in the Bible,
Psalms 1, 2, 3, 4 says, Psalms 1, 3, no, what is it? Fuck, I was trying to remember what the ACAB thing was. 1, 3, 1, 2.
Yeah.
Psalms 1, 3, 1, 2 says Ronald Reagan is Jesus.
Yeah, John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he sent Ronald Reagan to save us from our sins. Yeah. That's exactly how it is.
And the sins were the homos.
Honestly. But yeah, so starting this off here, in 1979, President Jimmy Carter, so not Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, arguably one of the only presidents you can almost feel good about, because, I mean, again, every president's a piece of shit in one way or another, but, at least Jimmy Carter kind of, did what he, actually believed in a way,
Yeah.
I think now, because he's still alive, and I'm pretty sure he's, building houses in, developing countries, so.
Wow.
Good on Jimmy Carter.
Do your thing, Jimmy.
Yeah. He put an embargo on arms being sold to Iran because they were supporting terrorism. Mm-hmm. We had been a big arms dealer to Iran for a long time.
Right.
But Jimmy Carter put a stop to that because the Iranian government was getting into some fuckery, and then there was a situation where some a college radical group took 52 American hostages or something, and was protesting the Iran, America selling guns to Iran. So that happened, and Jimmy Carter put this embargo on there and was yeah, Iranian government kind of sus, probably should not be selling them guns. Then Iraq invaded Iran in September of 1980, which made Iran obviously need guns.
Right.
When you're fighting a war, guns kind of important.
Are important.
Yeah. Again, if you're into that war stuff, I don't know.
Do you fuck with the war? What is that, Lil Dicky or something?
I don't know.
There's some I've seen it on TikTok. I don't know. It's
do you
rap guy.
fuck with the war? Yeah. And then after Reagan took office, he stated that he would keep the embargo that Carter had set up in place because, again, it was kind of obviously Iran is doing a terrorism, and
yes,
and you don't want to be seen supporting a terrorism.
Yes. Yeah.
There was a secret study that was done by the Reagan administration that showed that parts and weapons could still be obtained by other sources, or Iran could obtain them by other sources, and how everything literally everything in like the 20th century always ties back to communism and the Cold War. Reagan did
Classic.
not want Iran falling under Soviet influence.
Classic.
Because, again, Soviet and really, any of the other like Soviet countries on that side of the world would be more than happy to sell Iran the parts, the weapons and stuff. Again, not that necessarily is a good thing, but
Yes.
just the pissing contest between the Soviet Union and America is it's awful. It's funny because it's so awful, and you have to laugh so you don't cry.
Laugh through the pain.
Yeah. But so Reagan decided that the U.S. should begin selling the blickies to Iran as soon as possible, or as soon as was politically possible.
Blickies?
Yeah, like the blicky. You get the blicky on you?
What the fuck is that?
It's like a term for a gun.
I've never heard that.
Damn, I thought I was making a funny joke. Like, you gotta keep the blicky on you? Damn. Okay.
The glizzy.
The glizzies, yeah.
Keep the glizzy in the strap.
The glizzy stizzlers.
I thought blicky was like a type of gun.
No.
I don't know shit. Sorry.
It's all right. I probably, I don't know. I'm probably using it like not the best. I feel like it's more of like a again, it's kind of like strap. It's just like slang, I guess.
I see.
Which I'm not the best with slang, but I try.
Okay.
I try my best.
Anyway.
The openly declared goal of, I'm gonna almost certainly butcher this name, Ayatollah Khomeini was to export the Islamic Revolution and overthrow the governments all over the Middle East. Again, this was the Islamic government of Iran at the time.
Yes.
They were wanting to do an imperialism, basically. So, like, again, a terrorism and imperialism.
All the good things.
Stuff. And it was, like, a fascist government at the time.
Yeah.
Or, again, the term fascism is really hard to, like, pin down in one way or another. Like, it had some fasci elements, I should say, if you will. Like, fascist adjacent.
Sure.
In 1983, the U.S. launched Operation Staunch, which was a diplomatic campaign to stop other countries from selling weapons to Iran. They were like, hey, guys, let's all not sell weapons to Iran.
Don't do this.
Yeah. It was like the dare of selling weapons to Iran.
Dare to resist
and it
selling weapons
probably
to
worked about
Iran.
as well as dare.
Yeah.
But remember that for later, because that does play a big part in it, because the U.S. was very openly like, hey, don't sell weapons to Iran. Around the same time, there was a guerrilla war that was going on in Nicaragua against the Sandinista National Liberation Front, which was a revolutionary socialist government that Reagan thought was not based, thought was very cringe. And as Reagan do, he didn't want them to exist.
Yep.
There was a group of militants called the Contra, which is kind of where the name comes from, that was based in Honduras, that were fighting to overthrow the government. One man's terrorist is another's freedom fighter. I just wrote that in here because I thought it was a funny
that's
quote.
really good. That's really good.
Yeah. Reagan stated nearly from day one of his presidency that he wanted to support the Contras in their conquests. Obviously, Congress was like a little iffy about giving like an insurgency group like open support,
Right.
Because like that's CIA shit, like to fund like a terrorist group in that country or whatever. Like, but like Congress won't be like, yeah, we're gonna fund this insurgency group. Like,
that's special top secret CIA shit.
Exactly. So like the fact that it was so public, I feel like, is why Congress was like, no. Funding the Contras was actually made illegal by the Bolin Amendments in like 1982 to 1984. There was 3 amendments that were put through that were like, hey, Reagan, my dude, you cannot fund these Contras. I know you want to so bad, but you can't do it.
The temptation is unbearably strong.
It's rough. I'm sorry. Officials of the Reagan administration continued to secretly arm and train the Contras illegally. And in 1984, Reagan stated to the National Security Council to keep the Contras together, body and soul, no matter what Congress voted for. So,
Yeesh.
good old breaking laws.
Yeah.
Which, usually I'm like pretty pro breaking laws.
Yeah.
But if you're the ones who make the laws, you can't break them. Like,
oh, you mean what the police do every single day?
Exactly. Yeah. This is
again.
Okay. This is news to me. Police are bad.
Oh, right. Forgot to tell you. Yes, they are.
I missed the memo. I'm sorry.
Bad.
Okay.
Yes.
ACAB. I thought it was all cats are beautiful.
I thought it was all cops are the best.
Yeah. What was this word I wrote here? Oh, the gist. The gist of the plan was to sell Iran weapons through Israel to like this, again, like heavy air quotes again, moderate Iranian faction.
Classic.
So like we would give these guns, sell these guns to Israel. They would then get them to Iran. We would get some money from Iran, and then we would also reimburse Israel for the weapons, so that they had like an incentive to get them to Iran for us.
Okay, sure.
And again, it was all like under this like idea of like, oh, like Israel was like, we're gonna give them to this moderate faction in Iran that will help reestablish peace and like the order, because again they were in this big war with Iraq. The weapons that were sold in this arms trade were, just to go through a few of them, in 1981, there was a couple of BGM-71 anti-tank missiles. In 1985, there were 494 TOW anti-tank missiles and 18 Hawk anti-aircraft missiles. And then in 1986, so 1 year later, 2,008 TOW missiles.
Oh boy.
250 to 300 Hawk spare parts to like repair the Hawk missiles or to like fix them up, like the things that launch the missiles, I guess. I don't know. Again, this isn't a military podcast. Just did a quick overview.
Yes.
I don't know shit about guns.
Same. I don't know shit about shit.
Ain't got shit in my brain. Not at all.
Not a thing.
No thoughts.
It's rattling around in there.
The U.S. again would make money from the sale and then reimburse Israel with the weapons for their services. So, as you can see, a little bit of fuckery happening on all fronts here.
Yeah.
The money was then transferred directly to the Contras, if you're keeping score.
I have a notepad with a tally.
If you're keeping score here on our boy Reagan and what his happenings are, he has violated the embargo that is on Iran because he is getting them guns.
Yes.
And then breaking another law by taking the money from those guns and giving it to the Contras.
Yes.
So this is like double illegal.
Yeah.
Which again, I'm not too keen on laws, but like this seems like something that maybe it's good there might be some laws for it, right? Like maybe you shouldn't.
And again, you are the people that are upholding the law, and so you probably should fucking be the ones to follow it. I don't know.
And yeah, it's just shit like that. Like this is a tangent, but it's things like, okay, there was, I don't remember his name right now, but there was like this professional football player who had joined the army during like the Iraq War and back in like the early 2000s, and he had joined the army. He got killed, and it was very tragic. He seemed like he was a decent fellow,
chill dude,
but so he ended up getting killed. It was a big like mistake that happened. He was actually killed by like American soldiers as well. Like it was a mistake. But George, the Bush administration had like set up this law where you have to give like a grieving family like 24 hours before you make like an official announcement that somebody died. And then they broke their own law.
Yes, I remember
because they wanted to like hop on that like, that propaganda machine as quick as possible, being like, this, patriotic football player died for his country, and then they did a bunch of bullshit where they like tried to give him like a bunch of Christian shit at like his funeral, and his family was like very like vehemently atheist.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I remember all this shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it like came out later that it's like, no, he was killed by like American soldiers.
Yeah, like,
and
he
it's
was
like,
killed.
yeah, that's still sad or whatever, but like, he wasn't killed by the opposing side. He didn't like die.
It was like a mix-up that happened. Yeah. And yeah, it was some bullshit. I can't remember the name. I should probably look it up, but. Yeah, but it's just like that where it's like, okay, you're going to make this law, but then you're going to just break it because it just fits your situation
Yes, better. Which is what the American government does.
It's like their
every
MO, honestly.
Single day.
Yeah. Like, stupid.
That's like a secret little asterisk at the end of the Declaration of Independence. It's like, also, we can just do whatever we want.
Yeah, honestly. Also, no rules.
First rule is...
There's no rules.
No rules.
Like, mom's not home. We can do whatever. Hell yeah. Anyway, so the info on the whole Iran-Contra affair was leaked first to Lebanese reporters that printed it out in a magazine, and then Iran actually confirmed that the scandal was true, that they were receiving weapons from the United States.
Oh my god.
And obviously, once that got out, that Iran confirmed it, the American press went fucking wild. Because holy shit, like, that's insane. Again, so not only was Ronald Reagan selling to the Contras, which again, I guess any like sane person could probably like have guessed that was probably happening.
Yeah.
But then you set up this like diplomatic campaign to get other countries to not sell guns to Iran because you're scared that they're going to fall into like communist hands.
Yes.
And then you're selling guns to them. Like it was like this huge embarrassment for like the US government because they were like, well, fuck.
Sorry, we lied.
Sorry. This all took place in the second term of the Reagan administration.
Which I bet everyone was like, glad we voted for that fucker a second time.
Good stuff. I mean, Ronald Reagan. You could have a podcast on Ronald Reagan, honestly.
Yeah,
holy
on
shit.
Ronald Reagan alone.
And it's really interesting because I almost feel like, because we're kind of in the midst of like now we're coming out of it obviously, but like the Trump era and stuff. But like honestly, like a lot of the things that people say about Trump like could also be extended to Ronald Reagan. Like the guy was a fucking movie star. Like, yeah, Donald Trump was like a reality TV show, but Ronald Reagan was like the only president that's been in like movies. I'm pretty sure Donald Trump was now. He
was in Home Alone.
He was in Home Alone. Yeah.
I forgot that Reagan was a fucking movie star.
Yeah, it's weird, huh? And granted, he was like younger when he did that, but still weird. So officially speaking, the Reagan administration stated that the selling arms to Iran was only for a hostage situation. There was, I believe it was like 7 American hostages that were being held in Lebanon. And so like the official statements, it was like, oh, we were just giving these guns so we could get these hostages back. But that's kind of bullshit because the first arms sales were authorized in 1981 prior to any American hostages having been taken to Lebanon.
Bro.
So, like, get your fucking story straight, first off.
That's some fuck shit.
It's so stupid. Like,
oh my god.
And, like, but that's the thing is, like, now it's easy to say, like, this is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's like, there was so many things happening that, like, people were like, what the fuck is going on? Like, like I have a nice Wikipedia article I can read about everything, like but yeah, at the time it's like, what?
Oh my god.
The sale of the weapons were of course sent to fund the Contra. There was an investigation that had taken place by a 3-person Tower Commission is what they called it, that was appointed by Reagan and the administration. So it's like okay, you appointed this investigation to investigate your crimes. Like, obviously, it's not going to be that bad. So, of course, they found that the president was not involved at all with the decision-making. There was a guy named Oliver North who did, like, a good portion of the, like, Contra side of it, like, getting the funds to the Contra and, like, running the training for the Contra and everything that was going on there. There was an independent investigation ran by U.S. Deputy Attorney General Lawrence Walsh, our boy L. Walsh, in December of 1986. And this, again, it was a bigger investigation. It did get more people, like, in trouble, but again, the chain of command, like, it's very difficult to prove that Ronald Reagan knew what was happening.
Right.
My personal opinion, again, this is my opinion, so don't sue me, but I guess Reagan can't sue me, but
True.
I feel...
R.I.P. in piss.
Yeah, R.I.P. in piss, dude. I feel that there's no fucking way that Reagan didn't know what was going on.
No, he's
like,
the president of the fucking United States.
And, like, just, like, his motivations, like, he obviously wanted to stop the government of Nicaragua.
Yep.
He obviously wanted to sell guns to Iran. Like, there's no fucking way that he didn't know what was going on. Mm-hmm. And it's just frustrating because, as I was telling Phoebe earlier today, they never get fucking caught. They never get held accountable to the shit that they for sure do.
Yes.
It's always people underneath them that, like, will maybe get some kind of punishment.
Right. Well, which it's like, even, okay, let's argue that, like, Ronald Reagan didn't know what was going on. Well, that's concerning.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's not fucking good either.
Yeah, I know. And because, again, it's like, the authorization had to come from somewhere.
Right.
And, you know, especially with military type things, it's like, you do what you're told.
Yeah.
Unless you're in the German army now. Because I'm pretty sure you don't have to blindly follow orders in the German army anymore.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I mean, it's like, it's the same shit, or at least similar shit with, like, Donald Trump. Like, he's never, ever gonna be...
Yeah. He's really like the crime president. Like,
Straight
he's done all the crimes.
Every
like,
single thing he did was a crime.
Like,
big crime guy.
He's the crime guy. And, like, and we know about all these crimes.
Yes, it's right in front of your eyes.
It's not gonna fucking matter, you know?
No, and it's just like, okay, no, I'm not gonna go off about this, but it's just like the fucking Jeffrey Epstein shit. Like, every single, I'm gonna keep it together. Every single, like, high profile government person, rich person, whatever, has been implicated in this pedophile shit. Mm-hmm. They will never face a single fucking consequence for this, ever.
No.
Okay.
Because, yeah, and, yeah, it's so frustrating. And it's shit like, I remember when Biden first took office, he had, you know, people were like, are you going to try to, you know, hold Donald Trump accountable to, like, these specific crimes? And he had said something like, I think that persecuting and holding ex-presidents accountable for their crimes is a bad precedent to set, or something. And I was like, you know what? Fuck you. That sounds like the best precedent to set, because holy shit, how great would it be if every time a president left office, they just had to go to prison?
Yeah. Like, well, and I'm like, oh, it's not a good idea to persecute presidents for the crimes that they've committed. So what you're saying is you're about to commit a fuck ton of crimes,
whole bunch
Biden.
Of crimes, yeah. God damn it.
Dumb
fucking insane.
Fucking piece of shit.
Back to the Iran-Contra. Several dozen indictments took place, but there was only 11 convictions for the whole thing, which, again, seems good. You're like, okay, like 11 people got convicted. All indictments and convictions were then pardoned in the final days of President George H.W. Bush's presidency.
Yep.
Because it was noted by Walsh that Bush seemed to be pardoning them as a preemptive measure to save himself from potential allegations that came about his involvement in the entire thing. And George H.W. Bush sucks as well.
Oh. Yeah.
They're all bad. I mean,
true.
Again, every president's awful.
Yeah.
You have to be some kind of fucked up to want to be president.
Yes.
But Reagan, George H.W. Bush, even George W. Bush.
Yeah.
They're like, and Donald Trump too. They're
Yeah.
all like a specific flavor of evil,
It's
you know?
so true. It's so true.
I think a specific zest to them, you know?
Zest
Um,
of murder and treason.
Exactly.
Which,
and
again, I do support a lot of treason, but in this example, no.
No. Yeah, I mean, it depends, because it's like we were talking about, like, you know, the Soviet Union, yeah, they were communist, like,
Yeah.
on the front, you could say,
Sure.
but, like, still pretty fucked up in a lot of ways, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like, and maybe, just spitballing here, leaders are bad.
Whoa. That's an interesting take.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of a spicy one. Leaders, not good. Don't like them. Maybe having hierarchies that lead to people having a imbalance of power over other people causes people to become unempathetic monsters that
Right.
will literally fuck over anybody to maintain that power.
That's a good point, Taylor. I've never, ever, not once thought of it in that way. It's definitely not something I think about every single day of my life.
Day. It's like that meme I sent you where it was like it was like the rage comic girl, or like the I think it was the trad wife meme, but it was like,
Oh, yes.
it was like thank you for everything you've done for me, and then it was a picture of Karl Marx, and it was like, I'm literally the reason you can't enjoy things anymore.
That's literally my
I
life.
know, honestly, like it's rough getting radicalized, because literally anytime you have to like work, you're just like, this is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not like, it doesn't have to be like this.
You're like, I fucking hate this.
Yeah. Literally anytime I'm doing almost anything, I'm like, it doesn't have to be like this.
Like, this is hell. It's
all fabricated to make our lives harder.
But yeah, that's the Iran-Contra scandal.
Amazing.
It was, again, a kind of a big embarrassment for the Reagan administration, because, as we said before, when you're masquerading as like this, you know, we're gonna be tough on terrorism and like these terrorist countries, and then shit doesn't happen.
Well, and when you literally are like telling other countries, do not sell weapons to Iran, and then literally
You're
do
doing
exactly that. Like,
Yeah, there was like this quote from Reagan that was like, because again, he like tried to say that they started selling him for like the hostages or whatever.
right.
There was this quote that was like, I knew that I could deal with the illegality of it, but nobody would accept that Reagan was soft on these countries that had our hostages, or something like that. That's kind of a paraphrase quote, but basically saying like, everybody would have thought I was a pushover if I didn't sell guns to Iran.
Right.
I can deal with with breaking the law, but I can't deal with everybody thinking that I am not a manly man.
Oh my god.
Because it almost like, this is also a tangent. I'm sorry. I'm just
I
going
like
off,
it.
but I almost feel like with a lot of those kinds of presidents, like that special zest of evil president, there's like this weird like toxic masculinity.
No, it's so fucking true.
Especially like in like foreign dealings, like they're always like, well, I'm gonna be tough on this country. I'm gonna stand my ground. Like it's just a weird like.
Well, I mean, that's like a lot of the Cold War situation was like literally on both sides this toxic masculinity thing of like, no, we're the better country. No, we're the better country.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Like, and I mean, talk about toxic fucking masculinity. Donald Trump, primo example. Like, the man could not stand when like a 12-year-old little girl criticized him on Twitter. He fucking lost his mind.
Oh my God. That whole, I mean, talk about like the right showing their true colors with what was her name, the climate change activist?
Oh, Greta Thunberg.
Yeah. Like, holy shit!
Oh
like,
my God.
she's what, like 11 years old, and there's like
Something
right-wing
like that.
people telling her to kill herself
Yes.
on social media. Like,
That's
are
a
you
child.
fucking kidding me?
Like, you are so fucked up in the head.
I can't even believe it.
No.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah, that was really like, if the curtain was not already, basically clear, like that was a peek
That was a
behind the
big one.
curtain for
Oh
sure.
my god. Whew. Yeah. Things are bad all the time.
Things are bad, guys. Capitalism has fucked us all over. I feel like we didn't have a lot of like conversation room during my talk. I was just
No, it's
information. So, thanks for that. Or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, do you any closing thoughts on yours now that because we have a little bit of time, I guess.
Wow. Good. I thought we were going to blow over our time by a lot.
We got 10 minutes till it's an hour and 30.
Wow,
so.
okay. Closing statements. Basically just the fucking Soviet Union. I mean, they lied about a lot of shit, but like this was one of the absolute worst things. And the thing too with it was that it's like, not only were they just fucking over their own country, which already, or countries, because like USSR plus the Soviet Union, like not only are they fucking over, that whole thing, which is very bad and don't do it, but like you also are involving other countries in this because radiation is really bad and it spreads all around, especially if there's a giant explosion and it flies into the sky. And and so it's like by them not informing people right away, they also endangered so many people in other countries surrounding them as well. Like it's just the level of like irresponsibility and like purposeful irresponsibility is unfucking real. Unreal.
Yeah, it's very interesting because these our topics kind of lined up because
they really did.
Iran-Contra was like in the 1981 through 86 or whatever, and yours was in 1986.
86.
So, well, and I don't remember. I think it was like 1992 that the Soviet Union
crashed. I think it was
or
91 or 92
and
when
then
the Soviet Union fell.
Mr. Gorbachev tear down that wall
Yep.
kind of shit.
Yep.
But yeah, so
was it Reagan that said that?
It was Reagan that said that, but I don't think he was in office. I think he said it like before, like he was. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again,
not
I'd have
experts.
to look it up, but whatever the
I just think
case,
it's interesting the lineup again as well with the Gorbachev plus Reagan thing.
Yeah, and it's just interesting because we're demonstrating that both of the Soviet Union and the United States of America are slimy pieces of shit.
Yes,
so.
very much so. Very much so. And, I guess another somewhat closing thing, like, the radiation poisoning and sickness and the cancers caused by this are so fucked up. Like, the way that you die from radiation sickness is hellacious. Like, it is horrible, horrible deaths. Thyroid cancer is such a fucked up cancer. Like, oh my god, just the way that this affected people's lives was woof. Also, if you want to fund our trip to Chernobyl, hit us up.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, that would be sick.
I really want to do it.
Like maybe in the future, because that would honestly be tight. Like we could go to Chernobyl, make an episode about it.
Yeah, do a live show in
Chernobyl. Yeah.
At the nuclear power plant.
Exactly. Just vibing with the nuclear reactor.
Getting vibes from the radiation itself.
Yeah, like radiation vibes, dude. Yeah. Anyway, let's do pluggables and call it.
Beautiful. Cool. Well, comment. Oh, fuck. What did we decide that it was at the beginning?
Oh, it was, what should my lo-fi name be?
That's right.
Yes, so that's what you comment for a shout-out on next week.
Shizzy. Oh, and our shout-out winner is... Gotta pull it up now.
Drum roll.
Should have had it pulled up before this. Emily!
Emily!
Longtime friend of the pod. Their favorite fashion statement is wearing jewelry made by local queer artists. Which, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. Warms my heart.
Same. Warms my queer little heart.
True.
So yes, next time, or on our social media post for this episode, comment what Taylor's lo-fi name should be. Which you can do so on our Instagram, which is at Remarks Podcast. On our one single TikTok video, which is, our TikTok is at Remarks Podcast.
We have a Twitter that is at RemarksPod, and then my YouTube channel, The Lefty Agenda.
Wahoo.
Wahoo. And I think that's it. So.
Okay. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.